Brought to you by WKTV, I'm Wayne Thomas. Welcome to another Grand Rapids Ghost Hunters Paranormal Podcast.
Brandon Jose, thank you for joining our forum in search of paranormal possibilities.
Good evening, my name is Kim Colleen, and please keep an open mind about things you might not easily believe as we explore the mysterious.
Good evening, I'm Ryan Mason. Thanks again to WKTV and producer Gene Gregory for having me.
Tonight's special guest, Shetan Noir. Returning special guest. She's an author and cryptozoologist. And what we like to do when we start out, Shetan, is do a little review of the previous podcast. Mm-hmm. And our last, we would have Rick Wade on right now, author and seer. But Rick is having health issues. So Rick had to postpone. Mm-hmm. So we missed that October 23rd date. For the people that are keeping track, they're saying, hey, what happened? But that's what happened. But our last podcast was Esther Joy, tarot card reader and psychic. She gave us lessons in tarot reading, a variety of crystals. The table was full of different crystals. And she's got, just to point out what she has going, she has paranormal or Tarot Tuesdays at the Paddock Place, and also she has a special event that starts tomorrow and goes through November 3rd. It's Macabre Ghost of Paddock, and it's live music and actors, and that's going to be a production. Mm-hmm. So if you can get over to the Paddock Place here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, United States. I say that because I know people are watching this podcast in France, Australia, Europe, all over Europe and Canada, because we've gotten some comments. So keep those comments coming, please, and let us know where you're from, where you're watching, whether it's a different place in the United States here or another country. Let us know. Now, the last time you were here, you said was what month?
June.
June,
yep.
And at that time, we featured these two books, To Fight Fire with Fire and Lake Monsters and Odd Creatures of the Great Lakes. We featured those, and we actually had our literary reference came from this book here, from the Monsters of Lake Michigan, and we did Edmund Fitzgerald,
yes.
And I also did some lines from Gitche Gumee, Longfellow's Song of Hiawatha, because I had to learn that when I was in grade school because I was a bad boy. So, yeah, we talked about that. But tonight's literary reference was Casting a Spell on You by Savoy Brown. And that's more of a reference to your book, To Fight Fire with Fire.
Yes.
Because this book is basically a recipe.
It's
recipe book, sort of?
Kind of, sort of. It's hoodoo magic based spells.
So recipes or spells. They kind of read like recipes.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
I mean, there were some interesting things. Graveyard dirt. You know, we talked about that. I thought maybe Gene was saving up some bodily fluids so we could do some of the other spells, right? But I don't know if he did.
He doesn't have
a
mic to defend himself.
Yeah, so we could do some of those things like garlic. There was the ingredients in some of your stuff made a lot of sense to me. You know, lavender was in some of them, of course. Holy water was in some of them. Very interesting. So then that's where this literary reference came from. Good job, guys, on that multiple reading. Nice job on that. Brandon or Ryan Mason, do you remember anything from the last podcast that we went over? Do you remember any of this stuff?
Yeah, I remember we talked about cryptids and stuff throughout Michigan and the Michigan Triangle a little bit and some of the interesting phenomena we have in the state.
Right. The Michigan Triangle. I'm glad you brought that one up because I have this right up here. And this is about shipwrecks, plane wrecks, and there are more shipwrecks in the Great Lakes than all the other bodies of water.
There's over 10,000 at this point in time.
And then we talked about a specific flight. You remember what the number was on that? Anyway, the triangle runs from Benton Harbor to Ludington over to, you got the pronunciation for this, Wisconsin.
Talk.
Yeah, or whatever she said. And then back down to Benton Harbor, and then that's the Michigan Triangle. And so I don't know if there's any truth to it, but the statistics are there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the Lake Michigan Triangle. It's really interesting because some people think that the triangle actually it goes up into Lake Superior, and that's not the case. It's triangled onto the 3 points going over Lake Michigan, and that's where they're having multiple ghost ship sightings, UFO sightings. There is. I don't scuba dive, so I've never been down to it, but supposedly there is an underwater Stonehenge where there's prehistoric assemblage of stones down there with apparently a mammoth carving or a mastodon carving on it. So there's lots of activity that's in that area, and it's one of the most treacherous parts of any of the Great Lakes.
Yeah, it was Flight 2501 in 1950. Mm-hmm. And they've been searching for it ever since. They found 9 ships while searching for that plane.
Right. But never found the plane.
Right. So, I mean, and there was some speculation that maybe it blew up or because of aliens or something. But
yeah, there was a report about the time that the aircraft went missing on the Wisconsin side of Lake Michigan. There were police officers who reported seeing lights above Lake Michigan and reported it under the category of, unexplained UFOs. And so there might be a possibility that had something to do with it. It's really hard, to speculate because there was never any actual wreckage from the plane found. There was never really any cadavers, dead humans found from the wreckage. So without having those two key elements, you don't really know.
It's just like it disappeared.
Yeah. So, and not just the Great Lakes, but any giant body of water, there's always been reports of paranormal supernatural activity. And it's something to do with that expanse of time and space. There's all kinds of possibilities of, when you take into consideration like quantum physics and, dimensions and stuff like that, you open up the doorway for lots of different potentials of what happened.
Yeah, it's definitely a paranormal possibility, without a doubt. Now, I want to get...
Wasn't that the one, too? Didn't they have, after that one disappeared, was there, luggage and stuff that started washing up? But it was from, a previous plane, a similar one? But it wasn't from that. They thought originally it was from that plane, and then it was.
I do know that they have some of the artifacts that were recovered because I believe it was one suitcase full of clothing. They do have that, I believe, at a museum in South Haven. I want to say South Haven. There's a maritime museum there.
Yeah.
That they have a exhibit for that flight.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, because I had heard one that there was one of the planes that disappeared in the Michigan Triangle was that they thought that they were getting stuff up from that plane, and it was actually stuff from another plane which had crashed years before. All of a sudden, that stuff started washing up, which is very strange that the stuff would come up from there, and then they ended up finding out it wasn't the one plane. So.
Yeah, I would like to live on Lake Michigan, but if you're having bodies wash up.
Well, I don't think you'd want to now because like most of the shoreline of Lake Michigan is gone because of the storms that we've had all of October, and we're not even into the gales of November yet. So the storms have just come in, and the water and the waves are just scooping away the sand, and they're doing $1 million worth of restoration, trying to save houses and stuff like that had 30 feet of yard before you hit the beach, and now that 30 feet of yard is down to 6 feet, and the lake is still coming.
Yeah, the water level's higher than ever, I guess. Now, cryptozoology, I guess we need a definition. It's the study of animals whose existence is unsubstantiated. quote unquote, because I argued that point. All these things are being reported by policemen, firemen, reputable people.
Yes.
And the reports don't just go back to the 1800s.
They go back to the Native Americans who their culture and their language is before written words. So it wasn't until the white settlers came over that things started to be written down and documented. So they were having experiences with these Bigfoot and Dogman and stuff like that. They have legends about them, and lake monsters, thunderbirds. Their legends go back to like prehistoric of what they've experienced. And when white settlers were looking for an explanation, they would talk, if they had a friendly tribe nearby, they would communicate with them and try to figure out, okay, what exactly are we seeing? And that's how they started to learn about the different cryptids that are being reported throughout history.
Right. I remember in your book about the lake monsters, the Indians had their own names for these things, and they would vary just a couple letters.
Yeah, it's really interesting because one of the things I learned from talking to Native American elders and storytellers is the way a word is written is not necessarily how it's pronounced. And
Mackinaw's perfect example.
Exactly. And so some people wanted to argue the point of the lake monster of Lake Superior, which they pronounce Inhabishu, but most people want to pronounce it Mishabishu. It's not a car. It's a lake monster. But every different settlement of tribe had their own pronunciation for it. And a lot of times what I learned was it's not pronounced the way it's spelled. So you have to talk to the Native Americans that this legend pertains to, because I had questions about a lake monster that's actually over on the other side of the state, and I was pronouncing it Gassendia, and I was talking to some Ojibwe linguistics specialists, and I asked them, how do I pronounce this? And they said, we don't know. That's Seneca. Go ask them.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, that's no help.
Yeah.
So it really depends on what tribe you're talking to and which tribe the legend is associated with to actually get their details and to find out as much as you can.
These descriptions that people are giving of these lake monsters, they seem to be similar. It's not like they're completely different or disjointed. They all have common things.
They fall, to me, with the Great Lakes, they fall into like 5 different categories. So your first one is giant fish, like a giant sturgeon that's able to put a dent into the hull of a steel or wooden boat. Giant turtles, like the size of a Volkswagen Bug. And sometimes bioluminescent. They can, light up the water around them. Sea serpents, so a gigantic, like log-type creature, moving,
snake-like serpent.
That can snake through the waters. You've got then your marine reptile, your prehistoric marine reptiles, which, depending on which description they're giving you, falls under either the plesiosaur, which has the long neck and long tail, or the pilosaur, which has the shorter neck and the long tail. So with the plesiosaurs, you're thinking Loch Ness monster. Mm-hmm. With the pileosaurs, plesiosaurs, you're thinking like Mosasaurus, where it's more. You'd think it had more in common with like a alligator or crocodile, but just mammoth proportions, and it has flippers instead of legs with claws. So that would be our 4th. And then our 5th one would be the amalgamations, which is generally what I put the Native American lake monsters under, because like with Inhabishu, you have a creature that has like the body of a dragon with wings, but it has flippers, it has a spiked tail, it has like a seaweed mane, it has the face of a horse and antlers like a moose. So it's a combination, and that's just one description. The other description of it is that it's a lake panther, and it has more like a cat-like head and covered in spikes. And they actually think that the Piasca bird that is drawn on the rocks in Alton, Illinois, they actually think that's a representation of inhabited, but the legends, because they were written down by a white Jesuit priest, I think it was Marquette, he kind of jumbled up the legends and attributed the wrong legend to the wrong tribe of Indians. So that creature is very similar in appearance to some of the pictures that I've seen of inhabited. So that is my 5 categories. And when you take into consideration, like with the 5th one, the amalgamations, that there are reports from DNR and from naturalists and biologists where they have seen moose dive underwater. Moose can dive underwater up to 19 feet to eat underwater vegetation like seaweed, plants. So picture in your mind, as you're rowing along with the canoe, this moose dives down, and you didn't see it wading out into the water because you were coming around the bend, and all of a sudden this moose comes up out of the water 10 feet from you. And moose are not nice creatures. Yeah. They will take on anything, including semis.
They're huge.
And they're huge. They look like trees walking through the forest. So you imagine something this massive popping out of the water, next to your canoe, and it's got this rack of horns and some algae on it and some seaweed, right. And the mind starts to, what could this be? Because you're paddling as fast as you can to get past it, while it's swimming and maybe trying to attack you, or it's going off in a different way. So you never see the legs of it coming up onto shore, and if you do, you're like, whoa, what kind of monster is that it can go underwater and go on land at the same time? So it's interesting details like that you find, from doing research, that you're like, oh yeah, that makes more sense now, of what the possibilities, could be that people were seeing.
I know if I'm in a kayak or canoe out there and I see that, I think it was a monster too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That get the adrenaline flowing.
Yeah.
All you have to do is look at a platypus, and you can buy into how an animal can be made up of different things
that. The platypus is that starts a interesting conversation about evolution and where the hell did you come from?
Right.
God had extra parts and just put
you're part duck, part mammal. You have flippers. Yep. You're venomous. Because they do have little claws on their back legs that if they gouge you with them, it does give you a like a venomous reaction to it. Where it's and people have very bad reactions to it. And it lays eggs. So it
lays eggs, right?
Weird.
And it's aquatic. So it's platypus is a really interesting,
Yeah, I could buy into that without a doubt. And the descriptions on the serpent types, the snake-like things, they said sometimes as wide as a Volkswagen.
That's the turtle. The Volkswagen bug is about what the size of the turtles that some of the reports have said. Now for the snakes, we're talking like as thick as a telephone pole and just about as long.
I read in your book 30 to one was 175 foot long.
Mm-hmm. Holy smokes!
And they seem to be all through there.
Yeah. Now keep in mind these are estimations from like 100 years ago, 150 years ago, when like for now we have references. For them, their reference would have been whatever size ship they were in. And most of the canoes were maybe 50 feet. They're not like the 10-foot canoes that you see people, taking out now. The hollowed out canoes, because they were carrying pelts of fur for the fur traders. They were trying to transport copper here and there, sometimes tobacco, sometimes whiskey or alcohol. So they didn't have like the big massive ships like the biggest ship that sailed on that during that time was the Griffin, and we all know that never made its destination. She went missing somewhere on the Great Lakes. So, these were hollowed out canoes that they were taking on the Great Lakes, and you stuck very close to shore because you knew where the shallowest, fastest parts to cross over the lakes were, and it wasn't worth it to try to go in one of these canoes from like Ludington to Manitowoc because you're at the mercy of the lake. And storms can come up just like that. And if you don't know your seasons and what to expect weather-wise, even in October, one of the worst storms that ever happened on Lake Michigan, it took down, 20 different boats. And it was a very powerful storm, and it just caught all the ships off guard because it was a nice summer day, or nice Indian summer day. And then that evening, the gale came in, and the 70-degree weather that they had been enjoying dropped down to 30, and they were in blizzards. And
it sounds like Michigan.
Most of them,
That all happened in 20 minutes, probably.
Well, most of them, did not make it to port, and even boats that did make it into like bays and ports were torn apart just from the wind and waves and just smashing the boats together. So you really have to know the Great Lakes if you're going to go out on them. Even at this day, an age.
I like in your book on the lake monsters how you included the real life, like you said, the sturgeons, and then there's also catfish that are giant. You included that. You included fossils. And you included hoaxes.
Yes.
And how just the waves can do a mirage and how you can see things on the waves. You included all that. So you covered the whole spectrum. And what I learned was in your book that at one time Michigan was under salt water. We were actually down by the equator.
Yes, and that's why Michigan's is it our state fossil or our state
Petoskey.
rock? Yeah. Petoskey stone. So the Petoskey stone is actually fossilized coral.
Fossilized coral. And put it in your notes.
Yep. And it's very popular around Petoskey, Michigan. Yep. You can actually walk along the shores there and find it. Now, to get the really pretty, smooth, you have to do the rock polishing and stuff like that, or pay lots of money to buy a specimen like that. But you can walk along the lake shores and you can get Petoskey stones, and it's fossilized coral. And so Michigan was underwater. So there is the potential that we did have things like the Mosasaurus, the plesiosaurs swimming in these waters. The problem is when Lake Michigan when Michigan as a state body of land started to raise up and started to move north, they were encountering the glaciers, and the glaciers scraped everything down south of us. So a lot of
our fossils
are way south of us. So
right.
It's possible that these fossils that they're finding in southern Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky area might have been Michigan based, but because of the way that the glaciers worked, because the glaciers are what carved out the Great Lakes and made these huge impressions in the ground, and the Great Lakes will never be drained. Not within our lifetime.
Right.
They won't. I don't care how many companies come and bottle water from it. They're never going to drain it. As a matter of fact, as of this month, they were reporting that Lake Michigan was the highest it's ever been.
They need to drain it a little bit.
Yeah, because she's wreaking havoc right now. And Lake Michigan isn't even our biggest Great Lake. That's Lake Superior. So
Kim's never looked better, I swear. Now, you two met at the GRASP, Michigan Ghost Coast Convention.
Yes.
And that was even farther back.
Oh man!
Oh,
we're going back.
That was a couple years ago.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it though.
Two summers ago.
I look forward to if they ever do more events.
That started a lot of stuff out for us, and then working with Connie from GRASP and Bill. Hi guys. We send our prayers out to them, and of course to Rick Wade, our prayers out to them too. You have such a list of accomplishments and things that you're involved in. You happen to be the lead investigator of the Michigan chapter of North American Dogman Project.
Yes.
Now, I thought that'd be something that Brandon might be into. He's or Bigfoot.
Yeah, I'm always interested in all of them, so I'd love to hear.
He's
on both of them,
right.
You know,
All
especially,
different paranormal.
Anything that'd be kind of like more locally, because that's one of the things I wanted to go and investigate.
Yeah, I did.
Beyond, like ghost
last
stuff,
last winter, I did get reports from the head office of Dogman reports that were close, like in between here and Grand Haven area. The only problem was a similar report came in like within a few days of that, within like a 20-mile, radius, and so my red flags went off. Mm-hmm. That 2 reports came in from similar areas, and then the one report, the guy claimed he had attached a drawing. Well, it depended on what. If I clicked on it with my computer, it showed a stick figure. If I clicked on the link with my cell phone, it came up as a picture of an exposed dog penis.
Oh, no, jeez.
Now, I don't have anything like that on my phone because that's not, bestiality is not something I research. So I'm like, really, you guys, this is immature. And it wasn't the head office who sent it to me. It was the person who made the report. So now I'm very, whenever somebody sends me a report or contacts me, I have a whole questionnaire that they have to fill out before I even will start the investigation.
I see why.
And if there's anything red flagging, then I'm like, okay, I want to discuss this more. And once you start asking people like specifics and details and stuff like that, that's when they melt back into the woodwork and they don't want to discuss their and it's like, okay, if this was really something that was terrifying to you and you were so scared and you wanted to talk to your researcher about, then why aren't you willing to fill out the questionnaire, do your due diligence of following through with it and setting coming through with the interview of it. It's one thing to play around on the internet and send in hoax reports and stuff like that, but people who actually have the sightings and make the reports, if you want us to take you seriously, then you have to follow through. You have to do the questionnaires, you have to do the interviews, and that's when I'll put them all in motion.
That's a good point. Now take us seriously. I know we don't look like it tonight.
Yeah, I was just thinking
take
that.
Us serious.
Like, you don't look very serious right now.
Come on.
It's the night before Halloween.
Right.
Come on.
So we're having some fun with it.
It's our little bit of joy for Halloween.
Appease me, will you?
We're having some fun tonight, but normally we're very serious about it.
Well, I'm interested to know what the dog man looks like. And I know according to the notes that you gave us here tonight, he's about 7 feet tall. Mm-hmm. Blue or amber eyes, has a fearsome howl, likes to hide on rooftops.
This is my research.
I know.
Likes to hide on rooftops and eat children.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
Okay, isn't that a werewolf?
Yeah, see, I said that.
Okay, so let me do the clarification.
She needs to talk.
So werewolves are a Hollywood creation.
Yep.
That's where a human transforms into a wolf.
Right.
A upright standing wolf. And it also ties in with the 7th son on the 7th year curse, which you find in South America. So that's a werewolf.
Okay.
A dog man that's the form it's always in, is an upright walking canine, just like the Bigfoot is an upright walking bipedal ape.
So it looks more like an ape than a dog?
No. Bigfoot is the upright walking bipedal ape. Dogman is an upright walking dog.
Okay.
Similar to like a wolf type, appearance.
Okay.
But it's always in that form. A skinwalker is a Native American shaman who takes on whatever form they want in order to get closer to people to work their black magic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Which also is a shape shifter. A witchy wolf is a spectral wolf that is not a physical body. You will hear a growling. You will see the wind activity pick up. You will feel like the wind will be hitting against you. They generally guard graveyards, Native American burial mounds, and places that are places where human bodies are in the ground. Hellhounds, or black shucks, are a companion of dark entities that help them patrol and look for souls to take and for people to corrupt. So that's
Wow.
So when you're talking about canine cryptids, please be specific.
Yes.
I'm not,
Let's
but
highlight.
We're learning.
I like to put my definitions, down so that people, understand what is being discussed and what we're talking about.
Absolutely, I agree.
Let's highlight the fearsome howl, because Gene Gregory, our producer, had actually a fox that was screeching on the first show, if you guys remember that, because you had a story about
yes,
you had ran into a dog man.
And well, it wasn't that I had ran into a dog man. It was the fact that there was reports coming from a local state park where people's properties backed up to it, and they were hearing a scream. They thought it was either a cryptid or someone in distress. And what people don't realize is foxes have this horrible scream that they do.
Gosh.
I have a 6th generation family of foxes that lives on my property.
By your house. That's what it was.
And so I am very used to their vocalizations. But the first time the one female decided she would announce her presence, it was like 3:30 in the morning, and she was running around the property doing this screech. So if he wants to play it.
Yeah.
Well, I want to add a story to that first. Like,
Okay.
When I was up at Paracon, Dave Schrader, who's on the Holzer Files now, he was up there talking about, like, he was, like, in his house, and, like, he kept hearing, like, they thought there was this woman screaming bloody murder, like she was being murdered. So he kept calling the cops, and, like, the cops were like, there's nothing going on. It was like, you should look up a fox. What a fox
Yes.
sounds like. That's what you're hearing. It's like, no, it's a woman screaming bloody murder.
No. It's
I'm glad I know that now, because we have animals in our backyard, and you never know.
On the bottom. So turn the bottom towards the mic. Yeah, the bottom, the speaker. There you go. Now hit it.
Down here?
Yeah, right at the little triangle. Did you hit the triangle? You didn't. No. Here, give me that.
The wizard still hasn't mastered
We're
modern technology.
We're gonna get this fox screeching yet. And you guys are gonna be glad we played it.
We are.
This is not the screech of a dog man or a werewolf or any of those other things you listed.
Right.
This is a fox that hangs outside your house.
yeah.
All right, hold on.
And foxes have a lot of, they're a canine, but they have a lot of different
Brandon,
vocalizations.
Here. Now, that little triangle right there is what you hit, but the speaker's there. Okay, see the little white triangle? Okay. Go ahead. All right. Yeah, give
Give it
We
to
have
the
to give it
tech
to
guy.
someone younger here.
No,
We're
it's
gonna
going.
get
It's
this.
just going very slowly. You would
No,
got
it shouldn't be. No,
Nope, it's going to a
you got
commercial.
out.
We can't play that. We don't need that. We don't need that commercial.
We're doing this. This is happening.
Gene, even if you have to get out of your chair and come over
No,
here.
because nobody's allowed to see me.
Oh.
Oh,
That's
He's the great wizard
He's
of
the
Oz.
man behind the
You may
mic.
not see the man behind the curtain.
see it. All right. Okay. So
Okay.
here, bring your mic over here. There. Ah, this is better be scary.
Yeah. Better be good.
See how easy that was?
Oh my gosh.
So imagine that sound at 3:30 in the morning in the wintertime, and you're like, why is that sound getting closer to me? Because if you don't know what it is, the first couple times you hear it, you have that that cold burning sensation in your stomach, like, what the hell is that?
I know.
Now, the
right?
first time I heard it, I thought it was a banshee, and
Right.
and it had been going on for hours, and I thought, oh my God, it's almost time for me to get up and let my dogs out for them to go potty and to feed them breakfast. And I'm looking at my 160-pound master, like, okay, you take on the horse, I'll take on the banshee. I got a baseball bat. We're gonna go to battle. and we come bursting out the back door, and I'm like, and then but foxes have this odor to them that's very skunk-like.
Ooh.
So when you smell that, I'm like, oh, it's a fox. So that was my crash course into, and this was like 4 years ago. And that was I had heard them do the yips and the barks and stuff like that, but that was the first time I had heard the scream that they do. And it's very, very startling.
Yeah.
And so if you don't know what that sound is, it can, people can misidentify it as, a person in trouble or a cryptid
Right.
or something like
Yeah.
that.
Well, I can see
And
that.
it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, as soon as you start smelling that skunky smell, you're like, okay, it's either a fox or it's a skunk or it's catnip or there's marijuana around here somewhere. And if it's any of those except for the catnip, I want to keep walking because, I don't want to encounter.
It sounds like kids in my neighborhood.
Right.
But that's just a fox.
Yeah.
Imagine if it was Dogman, how fearsome that might sound.
Yeah.
I can't hardly imagine. I've heard them yell out to the Bigfoot, do this Bigfoot screams when they're hunting the Bigfoot. I've seen that. We're rolling right along, and I want to get to your new book. I mean, it's the whole reason that you're here in this.
It's
So you must be very busy. I don't know how you find time for all this research. Do you go to some remote locations also?
yes, actually, with this book, I was doing quite a bit of traveling. And with it whenever I'm doing traveling, I do a lot of paranormal travel and stuff like that. So whenever I'm in a location, I make sure I have my camera with me, and I take pictures of everything. So because I never know what project I'm going to go on to next. So with this one, thankfully, I had gone to the Mothman Festival the year before, and had that's in Point Pleasant, West Virginia.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah,
Right,
where the Silver Bridge had collapsed.
Yeah.
They have a huge festival every September, and they have to have over 50,000 people there. It's just packed. And so I had gotten there the night before when it was less crowded, and I was able to get pictures of the Mothman statue and the mural of the Silver Bridge and some of the plaques and stuff like that. And then back this spring, I was wanted to do some hiking down Red River Gorge. So the Flatfoot Wood Monster area is within a couple of hours where I was going to be hiking. So I went down and I was able to get pictures. And now, if you're going to go down to Sutton, West Virginia, to where the Flatwood Monster sightings were, Google the museum. Because if you just Google Flatwood Monster, you're going to end up at the top of this very large hill at a private residence, and the man will laugh at you as you try to turn around your Ford F-250 truck with a huge camper on the back of it, and you're trying to maneuver it back around. Now, I'm a damn good driver, and I can do that. I can take that thing through an eye of the needle. But still, Google the museum itself. Talk to them. They will give you the heads up on different locations that have, things to do with the Flatwood Monsters, and you won't be driving into people's private residence driveways and getting stuck possibly. I didn't get stuck.
Let's get the complete title of your book, Mothman and Other Flying Creatures of the Midwest.
Yep.
And you've jam-packed this one with information.
Oh yeah, this one I did my due diligence, and the research that I put into it, only I would say 3/4 of the research information I got went into the book, because other things were kind of falling in the parameters outside of the region that I had set, but gives me more for other books. But
Right.
when I was writing the different chapters and looking for experts, I found my experts because they were very passionate about the Thunderbirds, the Mothman, Ropens, which are modern day sightings of pterodactyls, the Butler County Gargoyle, which depending on what part of, the state you're in, could be the gargoyle, the demon, or something like that nature. So the Van Meter monster, I found experts who had really done their research and talked to people and have really put the work in and interviewed them. And some of these interviews are 10 pages long, and they're worth every single second it takes you to read them, because you get their candid answers. They're honest answers that are unedited. However they sent me the answers, that's how it went into the book, except for like punctuation and spelling.
Mm-hmm.
I neatened that up,
Yep.
and so did the editor. But I put my foot down and said, however the answers are in the book, that's how it's staying, because I will not let my experts have their answers changed or reworded or taken out of context. So you're getting their honest answers to the questions.
So does West Virginia and the Silver Bridge remain the most famous Mothman?
I would say
sighting?
so. Yeah, and West Virginia is really interesting because the two well-known ones are the Flatwood Monster and the Mothman. But when you talk to locals and you start really doing historical research, there have been reports going back to since the coal mines opened and people started working them, of appearances of these flying cryptids, where sometimes they had to have like an armed escort going from like the mine entrance out to the like the food area, or where their vehicles were to go home, because they were being like swooped on by these flying cryptids. And there have been lots and lots of reports. And when you're writing a book and you're doing chapters, it's hard to decide what goes into the book and what doesn't, but you always have more information for like a follow-up book. Yeah. And so maybe someday I'll do a book on West Virginia, cryptids, and I can put those reports in there. But it's just, like I said before, getting people to actually fill out the reports, do the interviews, and, wanting their story to actually be told and not hoaxing it.
Well, 46 people died on the bridge when the bridge collapsed. And isn't there some kind of a prophecy when it comes to Mothman, a foreboding?
That's the Richard Gere movie. And I guess it depends on what researcher you talk to. Some people think this is an interdimensional being. Some people think it's an alien. Some people think it's a paranormal entity or a demonic entity. There were so many eyewitnesses who had sightings reports and interactions with this creature. And the thing about the Mothman is it's very similar to our own Nain Rouge, where
The Detroit
Nain Rouge, where
Red Devil.
It depends on your interpretation. Some people believe that these creatures cause the chaos and the disasters, and some people believe that they warn of the impending doom. And the legend that goes with the Silver Bridge collapse was people were seeing this creature flying back and forth several times above and around the bridge before it collapsed.
Seems like that would scare you away, like a warning.
That would, and but that was like a build up to it, and then after that it seems like the creature either moved on to a different area, or because a very similar creature, the Butler County Gargoyle, looks very similar, but people say it looks more like a gargoyle that's been sculpted out of concrete. The only thing is it's 7 feet tall and it can fly. And people have seen this.
I read up on gargoyles a little bit too.
Uh-huh.
I sent you something.
Sent me, yeah.
Yeah, I sent you because there's some in Grand Rapids. A couple
Yeah.
gargoyles on one of the buildings down on Ionia.
Oh yeah, they just reopened that as something else.
Yeah.
Right, it was McFadden's
They're
at
not
one
7
time.
7 feet tall though, but yeah.
Yeah. And those two were put on churches. The gargoyles were put on churches. It's to be so ugly and scary that they scared off evil spirits.
Right.
And so it's not something bad necessarily.
No,
I mean,
it's really your, it's the person's interpretation. Now, the flip side of that is it might not be a gargoyle. It might actually be a demonic creature that is in this plane of existence, and this creature has been sighted in West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, and so it kind of follows a path. So is everybody seeing the same creature? The reports I've seen, they're very similar, of what people are seeing.
I'm not going to stick around long enough to make friends with it, whatever it is. I'm not going to do that. It's scary. I brought it up on this show that flying cryptids is one of my scariest things. I'll deal with ghosts all day long, but flying cryptids, something that's going to fly and catch me.
Yeah, when you case in point, the Thunderbird attack in Illinois, where the 10-year-old boy, the bigger of the two birds, had swooped down and actually was able to pick him up several feet before he was able to, in the struggle, get free. But it was a bird big enough to pick up a 10-year-old child.
That's a big bird.
And fly. Now, we do have, the golden eagle, which the description does not match. The description is more of like what a condor would be. Mm-hmm. But condors, generally, people don't see them this far east or north. But a golden eagle, that's a possibility.
I've heard descriptions like a big owl, but you're talking a 6-foot owl.
Yeah.
Very
right. But the wingspan on some of these birds is quite massive. Even modern day, eagles, you're looking at a 5-foot, 6-foot wingspan, which is quite a powerful, animal. Even considering the fact that a small hawk, when it's diving down, it can break the back of like a young fawn, and then eat it or whatever it wants to do. And I'm talking like a young fawn, like, small, just, with its mother. But it can, when they're coming down, they are coming down so fast and with their claws outstretched, and those claws are sharp. I mean,
right. Razor sharp.
Razor sharp. They call them raptors for a reason. And they are making impact with the spine in hopes of breaking it on impact. And then their beaks are, there to do the damage.
And then we have fossils of pterosaurs.
Oh, yes.
13 to 16 feet wingspans.
That's actually the small one.
That's a small one.
Yeah. North America, the Texas region, and follow my thought here. So Quetzalcoatl Neuropia had a wingspan of 36 feet.
Oh, okay.
That's bigger than most small planes.
Right.
So you're telling me that this bird only flew around Texas? Yeah,
it flew wherever it wanted to fly.
That might be the territory of two mating pairs, but when you're talking a whole population of them, they're going to fly wherever they want.
Right.
They can fly. Nothing is going to stop them. 36 feet. They can go wherever they want. There is no barrier that they cannot cross because they can fly as high as they want. They can fly as low as they want. So Quetzalcoatl Neuropia, which is a North American species, 36 feet. And that's a moderate estimate. There might be bigger wingspans out there. That is one of our fossil pterosaurs.
Yeah, it's amazing. This is so fascinating. Like I said, I knew you were far out when I met you at the Ghost Coast Convention. I didn't know you were this fascinating until we actually got to know each other a little better. I don't know. I'm just taken back by all this. Like I said, I'm a little bit goosebumpy in fear. Now, you said that these Mothman, or this book, the Mothman, might be alien or related to aliens. It seems like in my research, the same time there's reporting Mothman, they're reporting spaceships, UFOs in the area.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that ties in with Bigfoots too. There's a lot of reports where Bigfoot activity and UFO activity are tying one and one. So with the Mothman, I give the historical facts of the sighting reports. You've got the expert interviews, and is it a flesh and blood creature? Is it a shadow creature? Is it interdimensional? Flying in and out of this plane into the next dimension.
Right.
Is it alien? I don't know. I have not had a eyewitness encounter with one myself, even though I did do quite a bit of driving on the back roads of West Virginia. Just in case, I always have my dash cam going, and just to see if anything, might show up. There are no definites when you're talking with cryptids, and anybody who claims to be an absolute expert, you can do all the research you want, but until there's a actual one caught, a live one caught, because you're never ever going to be able to document behavior and vocalizations, anything, if it's dead. It has to be a live one caught.
Oh, you're right.
Because you will never know what it's capable of, what it behaves like, what its personality is, if it's good or evil, if it's a predator, if it's prey, if it's dead. You have to have a live one. So until somebody actually catches one of each of these, cryptids, and it's a live one, then, there's no experts. There's lots of people who do research and investigators, but there's no 100% experts. I know exactly what I'm talking about because facts change, circumstances change. You might think you know everything about it, and then you come across a case or a investigation where that's all turned on its head because it's a similar creature, but it's behaving by a different set of rules than what you set forth for it. You can't do that because you're this. No, it's going to do what it wants.
Now, the Mothman, red glowing eyes. Mm-hmm. That's a common report.
So in the natural history species, there are several different species that have reflective eyes. Case in point, I can shine my flashlight in my backyard.
Bunny rabbits.
And bunny rabbits, foxes, everything has, can have a reflective eye. These red eyes are actually showing up, and it's not a light reflecting off of them. So it's producing its own light illumination. So it's either something that we've never documented in the fossil record, natural species, or it's somebody doing a very elaborate hoax with a very cool flying contraption that, can fly, up to 30 miles per hour to keep up with a car and stay, 20 feet in the air. So, yeah, think about that. That's some technology that would, that's expensive technology if you're going to use it just for a prank or, something like that. And we're talking these reports were in, not modern day, the reports of it chasing cars and stuff like that. This is going back, 30 years or more.
When our friend from Australia was here, Steve Wilson, the psychic medium, he wanted to go to West Virginia to the Silver Bridge. He wanted me to go. He's coming back.
The Silver Bridge is not there anymore.
After it collapsed, they didn't bother rebuilding it?
No, because it was in poor taste to rebuild it. There is another bridge close by, but where the Silver Bridge once was, there's plaques up, and they have a mural on the brickwork that's near the theater downtown, where they do all the presentations. There's a mural of the bridge with the truck driving across it.
Yeah, those guys, they had the statue, they had the festival. It'd be an interesting place to go to, I think. We almost got an hour in, so these guys need to plug whatever events they have coming up, or maybe talk a little bit about something that they've done recently, whatever, but they need that opportunity. So whoever wants to go has stuff coming up.
Well, I'm actually just wrapping up a humongously busy month. We're talking 3 trunk or treats and a fundraiser event just last week. And so did a lot of community involvement. Last week, Friday, I worked with the Tropical Smoothie in Holland. We raised, I'm hoping, I don't have the grand total yet, but I'm hoping a little over $100
Nice.
within only 2 hours for Shields of Hope. So we'll be presenting that check probably this week for Shields of Hope. Just people coming in, and we had the Ghostbusters there. I had my one of my team members dressed up as Slimer, which is always a hit with the little ones,
Right.
But in 2 short hours, we came up with $100, and that will go probably towards some Christmas presents for a needy family out there this year. So pretty proud of that, you know?
You should be.
Yeah.
Very good.
So just take a little breather right now because we've been so busy. I need a break.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that came out to the Hackley Library for my team Kent County Paranormal's presentation. And we had probably like over 100 people there. It was
Real good.
2 full rooms. So thanks to Darren Dykehouse and Taff from Darren Dykehouse from Lakeshore Paranormal and Taff from Grass Paranormal. They were out there, so I invited them up to share some of their stories of LST 393 as well. If you missed it, if you go on the Kent County Paranormal page, we do have the live feed from that presentation.
I'll be checking that out.
Yeah, me
without
too.
Doubt. Ryan,
Are we going to be doing a show about the results of the investigation on the ship?
I did one on my Kent County Paranormal.
Okay.
There's a podcast on there. We were joined by Mike from Grasp on there. We could do an episode on this one too. I could share some of the stuff.
I'd like to kind of learn.
Yeah, he had
I'd like
Mike.
to learn more.
You know Mike from
Yeah,
Grasp?
of course. Yeah.
Right, and then they had, that was a good show they did. They talked about that, and they talked about smudging some more.
That was
in
just a couple
detail.
days ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was our last podcast. We recorded that one the third Wednesday, that
was just
the
last week,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or not. It wasn't too long ago.
Okay.
So.
Ryan.
From our team too, like the Kent County Paranormal, we're now doing the first Wednesday of each month and the third Wednesday of each month as well. So.
Okay.
Ryan, you done anything paranormal lately besides joining the podcast?
Not really, no. I'm just continuing to read and research. I've been really into lately, I don't know if it's paranormal, something called the Missing 411, if you've heard of that.
Yep.
Yeah, you talk about the Great Lakes whatever was one of the inspirations for Politis's. I mean, it doesn't directly references, but I've been really fascinated. I actually went to Sleeping Bear Dunes with my son. We go up there a few times a year, and this time I was like, "You're staying in my sight." I'm not, he's 6. I'm like, it's just too. I don't want to. We don't have time to get into it, but that's been really fascinating getting into that. So that's really about it. Other than that,
Now, we didn't get down the list of all the things that you're involved in. You have your own paranormal team.
Yep, the Michigan Center for Unexplained Events and Phenomena.
You do Into the Liminal Abyss.
That's my paranormal podcast, yes.
All right, so like I say, you're an author, a journalist. I'm not sure exactly everything you're into, but not Bigfoot. You're not leading the Bigfoot either. You're just the Dogman.
I investigate whatever reports come my way. I think there are a lot of people investigating Bigfoot. I don't think it's disputable, whether he exists or not, because there's so much evidence found. Eventually somebody's going to get a good, picture or something like that.
Hopefully.
Some good,
Maybe
evidence.
Brandon. He was supposed to go this year, I thought, on a Bigfoot
Yeah, I was going to
hunt.
join Grasp. We're hoping to do that next year to go up probably to the UP somewhere and do some Bigfoot training with.
Rich is awesome. Rich Myers, he's pretty good.
So I have a final thought. You guys think about this just a second here as I read this. This is a quote from Edgar Allan Poe. "You're not wrong who deem that my days have been a dream. All that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream." So my question to you guys is, are you living the dream?
I think I am. I'm enjoying.
I think you might be.
I'm enjoying where my path is leading me. So.
Yeah, I think you might be.
To me, it's all good.
You must be very, very busy. You don't have time for a regular job, do you?
Actually, my regular job is running the business end of all of this. So,
Sure, and then you have your products. You say
Yep, and then I'm also one of the things I'm adding in 2020 is I'll be teaching a paranormal history course of the Great Lakes at several different community colleges. So I will be doing that too.
Well, that's fun.
I want to list your other books. I have them here, but you probably know them. Intro to Hood Magic, Sticks and Stones,
Yep.
Other Side of the Coin.
Yep.
And they all have longer, but that's kind of
Yeah.
a shortened version
Yeah.
of them. And then, of course, these 3 books right
Yep.
here, the new one, Mothman.
Yep.
I can't wait to read this one. This is my copy, so don't you guys be grabbing that. So, Brandon, are you living the dream?
Yeah, I'd say so. I'm investigating the paranormal, which has always been my passion. And again, kind of looking to explore as well as our Team Kent County Paranormal. We also want to branch out and to explore other things outside of just like ghosts and hauntings as well. So
Yeah, that'll be interesting to get into some
Yeah.
other areas, right? And then Ryan Mason, married,
Yep.
nice kid at home,
I do.
nice boy.
Yep.
I think you're living the dream, aren't you?
It's something, I'll tell you that. It's ups and downs.
You have a 6-year-old?
Yeah.
I do too. So.
You got your hands full too. You're not doing the research like Shetan is, but I'm sure you have your hands full.
Oh, yeah.
So I think the key to life is to live it fully. Never stop learning and growing and continue to chase your dreams. And that's what we're doing here. We're going to chase our dreams. We have some upcoming stuff. November 13th, the Living Proof Paranormal Investigations coming up. The November 27th, you might have heard of these people, Lakeshore Paranormal, with our friend Darren and Jamie. We actually did a private investigation together, so we will be talking.
Oh, you're going to talk about that one?
A little bit. It
Okay.
was a serious nature, so we won't be giving any names
Okay.
or locations or
Right.
anything, but we can talk about that a little bit when he's on. And then December 11th, hopefully, is our last
Okay.
show this year, and that's with Michigander Man. Michigander Man's into all different things. It's vlogs, they call them.
yeah, it's,
Vlogs.
he's got a YouTube channel, Michigan
Yep.
Man. Yeah, he kind of does some paranormal investigating, but then does like a lot of like travel vlogs and stuff like that as well. It's a cool channel to check out.
So we'll hit him up on the paranormal stuff, and then I'm interested in some of the other places that he's gone that have no paranormal connection whatsoever. But he's real popular in this area, so that's the show for tonight. Thanks to all my guests, our special guest,
Yes.
Shetan Noir. Once
Thank
again,
you.
thanks.
Bye.
Peace out.